maybe it's going to feel a little strange having a French Open without the 14-time champion Rafael Nadal, but we will have that huge ceremony, of course, honoring him. And Rafa has become synonymous with Roland Garros. Just last week, we spoke with Christopher Clarey, the best-selling author who just wrote The Warrior, about Rafa, sort of focusing especially on his relationship with Roland Garros. What do you think the send-off or that ceremony is going to be like for Nadal at the French Open? Just saying goodbye to this legend who probably, it's always hard for athletes to go out on their own terms, but maybe it wasn't the send-off he quite wanted last year.
Yeah, exactly. I think obviously the ITF put one together, didn't they, in Malaga for the Davis Cup finals? I think which was relatively, not low key, that's the wrong word, but that was obviously something that they had to put together at fairly last minute, because of course he only announced it about 4 or 5 weeks before. Listen, we're talking about a player that ripped up the playbook, didn't he? He ripped up the history books and will stand alone, I suspect, for possibly forever. Who knows what will happen down the line? But yeah, hopefully it'll be everything that he deserves. A guy who, and again, I think the thing, I'm sure Chris talked about this with Rafa, is that, in the early days, Rafa's body was pretty broken up in the early days as well. It was pretty beaten up in his late teens, early 20s. So for him to go as long as he did, to me, I think that was the most surprising thing for most people and his peers, that at 34, he was still able to compete with the very best, and his body did hold up long enough for him to do that. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be a great send-off. I'm sure it'll be a packed house. And everything that he deserves for achieving extraordinary things on the toughest surface, right? As well, as we always say, this clay is to most people the toughest surface, and he certainly made it tougher than most on the clay, that's for sure.
His greatest rival gearing up for Roland Garros, and suffice to say, Novak Djokovic has not had a good clay court lead up whatsoever. He's heavily downplayed his chances. Andy Murray, that coaching trial is now over, and there's a lot more questions than answers right now with Novak. Obviously, he looked good at the Australian Open in the front end of the year, but before bowing out in the semis with that injury. He did make the finals in Miami, but do you feel like this is really, really winding down, or is there more sort of motivation, something left in the tank for Djokovic to push and, get there and announce himself as still a Grand Slam contender at this stage?
I mean, listen, I think you have to judge him now on the majors, right? I think everything else is irrelevant. So I think if we look at his major record, to be honest, played great in Melbourne. Let's not forget that. Played great in Melbourne until he got hurt. Easy to forget that, Had a great win over Alcaraz in Melbourne. Then suddenly got injured. Let's not forget, this was only 4 months ago in a tournament that he's owned and is, to him, a priority. He played some very good tennis there. Let's go back to the Olympics. Yes, I know it was last summer. Played a phenomenal match there. I think if you look at the majors for Novak, you take the US Open out, where obviously he'd struggled post-Olympics. To me, when I look at Novak, yes, of course it's tougher at his age, but I certainly wouldn't be ruling him out. These guys can play themselves into the majors. The first week of a major for someone like Djokovic, assuming the draw is kinder, he can get 2 or 3 matches under his belt, build the confidence, a couple of days. To me, we can look at the last month. It's been obvious to everybody. He's said it. He's not motivated. He's not motivated for Madrid. He's not motivated. But I would be surprised if he's not motivated at Roland Garros. Personally, I think if he isn't, and we see an early exit, and we see something at Wimbledon, I suspect he'll probably be curtains by the time the year ends. I suspect he'll probably hang it up. But I think if he has got everything in order in his mind, to me, he can still be a factor at Roland Garros, because I think he has time. He is better than 85, 90% of the field playing at 75%. So that's great news for the first week. So if he can get through the first week, and then the senses, are there for him, he can start to build up again. I certainly wouldn't rule him out. Yes, of course, it's a huge ask at 37, whatever he is, 37 years of age. It's a massive task, but we've seen what he can do when the big prizes are on offer still. And I think that's what you have to judge him on now. Don't worry about the rest of the year. Let's worry about the 4 majors and see where he's at. And I think if you take those events as their own entity, I think we've seen some good tennis from him still. So let's see how he pitches up at the French and see where the first rounds take him.
Let's wrap up, Nick, with a game I like to call Contender or Pretender. And saying Pretender isn't denigrating the player that I named, just maybe how you feel about the way they're trending at the moment and what they could do at the French Open. I'll start with France's Arthur Fils.
Contender. Very big contender. Yeah. Huge game. Biggest forehand in the men's tennis. Great competitor. Great fighter. Love his attitude. I think he will be a player. Let's be honest, the French have not always had players that have risen to the occasion in their home country. I think he's very much against the grain. I think he's a guy who will rise to the occasion. Big chance at the French. Big chance of a big run for my money.
Holger Rune.
Erratic at the moment. A bit unlucky. Unlucky, I think, in the spring. Got ill during Roland Garros, then got hurt. So the big events have been a problem for him. The match with Mute in Rome was a rough one. Again, to me, he just looked to be too in and out emotionally. But we'll see. We'll see if he can get things right off the court, if there's stability off the court. Obviously, still got the credentials. He won Barcelona. So I think there's just a lot going on at times with Holger, from what I understand. And I think if he can just clean that up, got a good chance.
Lorenzo Musetti.
Great spring. Disappointing in the semi-final of Rome. I think whether he was tired emotionally, it certainly looked like he was tired emotionally. Extra pressure now, being a top 10 player, obviously. But I think he has become a tougher competitor. I think we saw it in Monte Carlo, winning a lot of matches from positions where he was in big trouble. That wouldn't have been the case 18 months ago. Lorenzo would not have won those matches. I think... Is he a contender to win? I would be surprised if he won the tournament, in all honesty. But I think second week, it's been a long spring for Musetti. He's got a lot of points to defend in the summer as well. He had a very good grass court season. So do I see Musetti as a major contender at the moment? No, I don't think I do. I think I see someone that can have a good run, but I don't see him in the semi or a final personally.
Two more for you, and players who are a little more experienced. Stefanos Tsitsipas, who's of course been to French Open finals before.
Sadly, backward progression, or regression, should I say. Disappointing year, out of the top 20. Says a fair bit about his tennis. Changed rackets, obviously. Now gone back seemingly to his other racket that he had at the end of last year. Just for me, there's just a hole in that backhand side that gets exposed. The return of serve is a big problem for him in a game that is moving towards power. More and more guys are serving bigger. This is a fact. You look at the numbers on serve speeds have gone up a lot over the last 5 years. His return of serve on the backhand side is a major vulnerability in his game. And unless they can clean that up as a single-hander, he's going to get rushed too often. We saw it against Fils in Rome. Similar story. He couldn't live with the power. And this is the problem that Tsitsipas has. And again, this is where I think we talk about the game moving on. It's become a serve and forehand dominant game, very much over with the power side of it. And I think as a single-hander, he gets caught out too often on the back foot. His return numbers are still relatively poor. I'd love to be proved wrong, but I just think, for me, Tsitsipas has not evolved and developed his game enough at the moment to be a contender at the French.
Last one for you, maybe the Sinner match aside, Casper Ruud.
I love Casper. I think he's a great guy. Great game for clay. Do I see him as... Yeah, I think I probably would see Casper as a contender. I do. Being close before, twice a runner-up, moves great. When he starts to get confident on the forehand side, then he's got a lot of options there. And I think if he would have placed Sinner in a semi-final, I know it's just been a blowout, one and love. But I think over 5 sets, with Yannick not having had the matches, I think it could be a more competitive matchup. And I think Casper has that bulk of matches, has that bulk of time on the clay now. So yeah, I think Ruud's got a good shot. I would not be massively surprised to see Ruud in the final. I think he's got phenomenal clay court credentials. He's got a forehand that can move around the court. backhand obviously is very heavy with a lot of spin, conducive. If the sun's out in Paris, if it's hot in Paris, that's going to help him. It's going to get that ball jumping a lot more, and that'll be great for him. Again, the conditions obviously do play a part. Forecast, I think, for week 1 in Paris is a little inclement, a bit heavier. That may make it a little tougher for someone like Casper. But I think if it's a warm day, if it's dry court, Ruud's got a good opportunity.
That's a great place to wrap. Nick, it's always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Also a pleasure to listen to you on the ATP World feed and Sky Sports as well. I think you're one of the best commentators in the game, and I hope you enjoy your time in Paris, taking in the second Grand Slam of 2025.
Much appreciated. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for watching us at Matchpoint Canada. If you like our work, follow along, hit the subscribe button below.